The death of any prominent TV character is precarious business. When done well, you can create heartbreaking TV gold. Sadly, that is not the case for the following deaths here, each of which came about in such a tactless, unfair, or unfortunate way they derailed an entire series. With that in mind then, I'm Andrew from What Culture, and here are 8 main character deaths that killed great TV shows. Number 8. Lexa, the 100. During her painfully short stint on the 100, Warrior Lexa was one of the show's most compelling characters, and due to her leadership, strength, and budding romance with series lead Clark, Lexa seemed destined to stick around. But it was not meant to be. Just as Lexa started to get comfortable with the show's ensemble and confess her love for Clark, Lexa was anticlimactically killed off by a stray bullet, in what can only be described as a lazy way to hurt its lead and crush an endearing same-sex love story. With Lexa gone, the 100 scrambled to fill the void she left, but nothing worked. Like Clark, the audience never recovered from Lexa's death, and her absence was the first nail in a coffin for a series that unfortunately would spiral downward with each passing season. If only Lexa had been given the role she deserved, maybe then the 100 wouldn't have ended up becoming such a mess, who knows. Number 7. Tara Knowles, Sons of Anarchy. Tara was part of Sons of Anarchy from the very beginning. The strong-willed love interest of Jax Teller, she was always on the outside of his shady lifestyle, but was always there to remind Jax of his humanity. It was a shame then when the show cruelly killed Tara off in the penultimate season, stabbed repeatedly in the head by Jax's rage-fueled mother Gemma, and left lifeless for her heartbroken lover to find. Going forward, Tara's death forced Jax into the darkest and final chapter of his own life, where he abandoned his humanity and eventually murdered his own mother. You can see why the writers killed Tara, but to do it so coldly and let the show become so hopeless after the fact is even now still a bitter pill to swallow. Like many characters on Sons of Anarchy, Tara deserves so much better, or at the very least, a more meaningful, less cruel demise. Number 6. Rita Morgan, Dexter. In a series about an emotionless serial killer, Dexter needed someone to anchor him to his humanity. Luckily for him, he had his future wife Rita at his side. Whilst Dexter was off killing other serial killers and concealing his identity from colleagues and loved ones, Rita was at home, opening him up to the possibility of a real life. Dexter was, by his own admission, incapable of real love, but with Rita, their relationship showed Dexter wasn't entirely dead inside. It was a mighty shame then when Rita was brutally killed by the Trinity Killer in the show's 4th season, because whilst it was one of Dexter's finest moments, it also meant that future seasons would be lacking her hopeful presence. And sure enough, both Dexter the show and Dexter the character were never the same without Rita. There was a human element and a challenge missing from Dexter's life from here on out. More free to delve into his bloody pastime, the show became tired with Rita gone, and it never really recovered. Number 5. Rick Grimes, The Walking Dead. Yes, Rick Grimes doesn't actually die in The Walking Dead, at least not yet, but everyone thought he did. And after Rick's presumed demise, he isn't seen again until a cameo in the show's finale. Rick's death in the middle of the zombie drama's 9th season threw the show and its characters into even further disarray, since The Walking Dead no longer had a true central protagonist guiding the drama, nor Rick's compelling desire to protect his family at the show's center. Try as he might, Daryl just couldn't fill the void his best friend left, and the show itself failed to find an emotional center after Rick was gone. The Walking Dead became more of an ensemble, but many of the characters still standing just lacked the depth of Officer Friendly. Rick may be coming back for The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live, but that won't change the fact that The Walking Dead's final years were lost and unfocused without him, even if the show's final season managed to recapture just a smidge of the charm of The Walking Dead's earlier years. Number 4. Tara McClay, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. If ever there was a character who didn't deserve their fate, it would be Buffy the Vampire Slayer's Tara, the love interest of Willow who was unceremoniously shot dead by violent big bad Warren Mears. Meeting her end in the supernatural drama's controversial season 6 episode Seeing Red, Tara is killed almost as an afterthought, shot through the heart by a stray bullet after reuniting with Willow for what seemed like their happily ever after. It was a callous and horrible end for such a lovely, innocent character, put in place only to push Willow into her long-teased villain arc. Worse than this ultimately lazy character manipulation though was the fact that Willow and Tara were the only same-sex couple on the show. Buffy the Vampire Slayer never overcame Tara's death or the horribly dark events that followed it, like Willow trying to end the world and flaying Warren alive. Such events lingered over the show for the rest of its run, and the death of Tara is something that you can't forget or forgive, and Buffy's final season just failed to justify or move on from this death. Number 3. Fox Mulder, The X-Files. The X-Files was always about Fox Mulder and Dana Scully, whose relationship and investigations into alien activity drove the show's drama, humour and heart. It was colossally detrimental to the show then when Mulder was abducted and believed dead at the end of the show's 7th season, and then appeared only sparingly, typically through archive footage and brief cameos, mainly because David Duchovny quit following the issues with Fox Studios throughout the following 2 seasons. Now, Mulder doesn't actually die, but his MIA status leads many to believe he is, and his absence is deeply felt. While Scully is a great character in her own right, without Mulder she's not quite the same, unable to carry the X-Files mysteries all on her own. I mean, she wasn't all on her own because Mulder was replaced by Agent Doggett, but despite being played by Robert Patrick, Doggett was given very little to work with. By the time Mulder returned for the show's final seasons, the X-Files simply wasn't able to recover from his prior absence. Number 2. Nick Clark, Fear the Walking Dead. Before it became the utter shambles it is right now, Fear the Walking Dead had a great 3 seasons at the start of its run, thanks in large part to the endearing nature of the Clark family at the show's core. The best of the family by a large margin was Nick Clark, a recovering addict whose survival instincts and mental struggles made him a compelling joy to watch. That is until the 4th season, when he was randomly killed by newcomer Charlie to make way for some new protagonists. Not only did Nick meet an unceremonious end after everything he'd been through, but his demise also came after he seemed poised to take on a bigger role. You know, befriending Morgan Jones and leading his own group through the long dead world. Fear the Walking Dead never recovered from Nick's death or the cast overhaul that followed. And looking back, it's safe to say Nick's last breath was also the show's. Like, man, what could have been with this series? Number 1. Zoe Barnes, House of Cards. Zoe Barnes was only around in House of Cards' first season, but she was far and away the best part of the show, proving a brilliant foil to the vicious Frank Underwood and allowing Kate Mara to give one of her finest performances to date. It wasn't meant to be though. Just as Barnes starts to figure out Frank's secrets, he brutally kills her by throwing her into an oncoming train. It's admittedly fantastic, if implausible, this sequence, but it does mean that House of Cards is missing a big piece going forward. Though Frank faces many competitors in future seasons, he never has a more compelling relationship than the one he had with Barnes, a quick-witted and intelligent journalist who could have made the show's future drama that much juicier if she'd been allowed to stay around. With her gone, Frank never has a rival as dangerous or as entertaining, and by extension, House of Cards itself never feels so alive again. So that's our 8 main character deaths that killed great TV shows. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, turn those notification bells on, and come and give us a follow on Twitter or X at WhatCulture. While you're there, you can find myself at Cultured Left Peg. Most importantly, be sure to have the best possible day. Whether you're doing something or whether you're doing nothing, I hope it goes really, really well for you. And if things aren't going so well, I really do hope they turn around as soon as possible. I've been Andrew Pollard from What Culture, and I will catch you down the road.